Hello, Kathryn.
Hey, John, how are you?
Doing well, all things considered.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
How about yourself?
I had a very interesting day, but I'm here and I'm excited about this presentation. So,
Oh, good. I am going to have to make you co-host because you have a slideshow, I guess.
I do. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Give me a couple of minutes. There
Hello,
we go.
John.
Hello, Renee. Is that you?
Yeah, the 4052 is me.
Yes. Well, good to have you here.
And is Dan on at all?
He is, but he's way far in the background. He's not sitting at his desk
Okay.
right now.
Okay,
But
I
he-
just wanted him to know that I called Sierra and they are backed up about 3 weeks for memberships. And they didn't show me active, but he told me give it another week.
Okay. Tell Dan yourself. He just sat down.
I heard that.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I
Yeah,
heard
I called
it, yeah.
National. Okay.
They're backed up.
He said they're backed up posting memberships. And so I told him it's been well over a week, and he said it's taking 3 weeks in some situations. They were short, and he's very nice, but he said they were short. And I said, it affects voting and things like that. And I could tell they have it because he had my P.O. box number. And I've not called Sierra giving them that to know that information. When he pulled my name up, it's somewhere half posted.
Okay, well, we won't worry about it anymore then.
Okay, I'll
Hey.
check with them next Friday.
Well, you did your part. Now they have to do theirs. Hello, Kathryn.
Hi, Dan.
Have you given John, do you have a PowerPoint or anything, Kathryn?
I do. Yep. He's going to let me share my screen here in a minute.
Okay. Okay, well, we still got a few minutes for our official start.
And Dan, last time we met, I did not at XCOM. I didn't want to belabor the meeting, but we are covered with speakers up till January, and then February. I'm going to ask Cortez if he would give us the beginning of the year kind of overhaul. But we have a speaker for next month. It's climate reality.
Oh yeah, who is that?
I have his name written down somewhere, but he is. It might be their president. I'm not sure. But,
actually,
he's
Renee, sorry to interrupt you. It's Alex Holland, and she is the vice chair.
Okay, I knew he was chair or vice chair. Okay.
Yeah, she. It's actually a lady.
It's a lady. Okay. Thank you for the rescue.
Yeah, you met her at the picnic. She was at the Dallas Sierra Club picnic, and remember you worked with her.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, by the way, does everybody seeing the slideshow I have up? Just to double check.
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Good.
And therefore the rest of them should be seeing it too.
Well, you never know, Dan. You might be special.
Well, I am special, but they still should be seeing it too.
Okay.
1948. Where did you get this stuff, John?
Research.
Research.
Yeah.
Okay. I see Miss Marple is in attendance.
Yes, she is.
Who's trying to join by phone? Is that Renee?
I'm here by phone. That 4052 is me.
Okay. Well, Kathryn, as you predicted, we may be a little small audience tonight because it is election day, but at least the people you'll be talking to are interested. I'd rather have a small audience of interested people than a huge audience of ne'er-do-wells. And I've had both. So is this more of your research, John?
Oh, yes.
These slides I've never seen before, I don't think.
Well, this one's actually, I had this, because of my issue with my computer, I had to use a different computer that did not have anything on it. So had to scrounge around looking for things. And this was one I presented, probably a year and a half ago.
Okay. Okay.
You can tell this is old. Well, let me see. This one's from April of this year.
Uh-huh. This another old one?
Yes.
Okay.
I love this one. Hillary's emails. Let me see. We will not be hearing from David or Mark or Liz. I should have thought about this one.
Well, that's all right. David might, they might join later. They're closing the polls right now. David and Liz are over here in Addison today at the firehouse.
Is he the election judge?
Well, I'm not sure what that is. They are, they get you registered and give you a ballot. Is that an election judge?
They have two positions. The judge is the one who makes sure the things are locked down and locked up.
And plus taking the summary and the actual ballots to the
so David
elections office.
David actually may not make it.
Yeah. Because when I used to do it, I never got finished until 10 o'clock.
Yeah. I've been a clerk, and even as a clerk, you get off late.
Uh-huh. Now, this little cartoon right here is one that Kirk has been sending around. I thought, boy, that is a goodie.
Well, okay. I guess we could wait another few minutes. We'll start about 5 after 7.
Okay.
Okay.
And wait a few more minutes to see if we get some more joiners.
Let me see, to fill the last 31 minute, I had a trip to the northern part of Minnesota and back by car, 2,130 miles on my 14-year-old car.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's fun all the way. Fortunately, you had really good weather going up and coming back.
kind of car do you have, John?
It is a Hyundai Azera 2009.
Hmm.
I've had it since 2008. Let's see. I have 2 more people entering. Oh, Marcia Jackson is coming in.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh, and Carrie is there. Hello, Carrie. I'd wave, but I have no webcam.
I'll wait for you. Hi, Karen. Okay, it's 5 after 7. Let's, I saw you had one slide that looked like it was kind of an agenda. John, can we go to that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had our pre-meeting social gathering. I will now welcome you to the monthly general meeting of the Dallas Sierra Club Group. And committee reports. Victoria, do you want to give any kind of a report on your Conservation Eco Action Committee?
Not much to report, just really briefly. Be on the lookout. We have been asked to help with the environmental aspect of a McKinney Airport proposed expansion. As most of us know, just the jet fuel and diesel fumes surrounding airports are huge environmental contaminants with lots and lots of issues. So I would say stay tuned to our social media, and I should have more information next month about how anyone interested can get involved in the fight to keep that effect on the environment to a minimum.
Okay, and we just spoke about upcoming programs. Could you repeat that, Renee? Next month?
Oh.
Who we?
Sure. December, we have is it Alex, Victoria, or Alan?
Victoria, what's the person's first name?
Alex, ALEX, for Alexandra.
Okay, and it's actually female. This person is the vice chair for climate reality, and she's going to speak. And then in January, we have the foundation. And I have all this stuff written down, but I think I left it at work. The foundation is coming. Where is it? Hang on a minute. Oh, this is what happens when you get off late.
That's okay. It's Ned, Fritz, Renee. Remember, it's going to be our friends from Green Stars.
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
I
about the
remember
Ned Fritz project.
I want to say their name right. And then in February, I was going to ask Dave Cortez. So we are from February on. That's where I need to start. After the holiday time, I need to start asking people.
Okay, and now I know Ned Fritz is not going to speak. So who was it from this Ned Fritz program that was going to speak?
Remember, Dan, it's the lady that came and spoke to us. She's a DFW Green Source writer. Amy Martin was one of the ladies, and they're going to come. Ned Fritz will not speak unless he tunes in from the next dimension. This will be the project about his life and his legacy that Amy Martin has helped create.
Well, is that going to be different than what she talked to us about before, I wonder?
No, it's the finished product. She came and spoke to us at XCOM about how we could help. This is the end result.
Okay.
Okay,
So
so this
they-
would be the finished result of where we could plug in then.
Yes, remember they've developed quite an
Okay.
expansive web page about Ned Fritz's
Yeah.
work and advocacy in life, and so this is the culmination of that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. Well, David and Mark and Liz are not here tonight. Probably David and Liz will not be here. Mark is never here. So we don't have anything further to discuss about the agenda. So unless there is something that you want to discuss, okay, then we will go, Renee or Victoria or both of you, one at a time, of course, want to introduce Kathryn and tell us what she's going to talk about.
I'll be happy to introduce her. Kathryn Bazan is the chairperson for the newly formed Environmental Commission that the City of Dallas, the City Council set up, and we are a year old in January. She's going to talk about some of the issues that we have to deal with and how the commission works, and just making people aware that we have a commission. I still have people. I'm doing a meet the commissioners because we've been, like I said, we are a year old, and I'm still running into lots of people that do not know we have a commission. And Kathryn reports to the mayor, and those of us, there are 14 districts, and she's going to talk about how it's set up and how each one of us, how we report and what we do.
And I would add that, of course, Kathryn is on our executive committee of the Dallas Sierra Club as well. Okay, I guess we're ready for you to take it away, Kathryn.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Renee. Good evening. I'm Kathryn Bazan, chair of the city's Environmental Commission. I hope sincerely that you were all able to go vote, either early vote or voted today, and that you used your vote and your voice to help our environment. As we get started, let's see. There we go. As we get started, I want to direct you to our website, dallasclimateaction.com. Here you can find contact information for all of the commissioners, the full comprehensive environmental and climate action plan, or CCAP, that the city adopted, our annual work plan progress, and our upcoming meeting information. So for those not familiar with the city's climate efforts, I'm going to do a quick recap, and then we'll jump into what the commission has actually been up to and working on for the past year. So in May of 2020, the council adopted what we call CCAP, which is the Comprehensive Environmental Climate Action Plan. The CCAP is a comprehensive roadmap, and it outlines the activities that the city is going to undertake to improve quality of life, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and to prepare for the impacts of climate change in order to create a healthier and more prosperous community. It's made up of 8 main goals, and those are further supported with defined actions and strategies within the plan. So you'll see we have goals for energy efficiency and sustainable transportation and zero waste and green spaces and air quality. So after the council adopted the CCAP, they created the city's Environmental Commission. And that was in April of 2021. Our first meeting was in December of 2021. And from April to December, the council members made their appointments, and we went through the vetting process to become appointed members of a board or commission with the city. So our role as a commission is to advise the city council on the implementation of the CCAP and to support equitable and effective action to resolve environmental issues as they arise. Our commission is made up of 23 members. So there are 15 voting members, including 1 for each council district and the mayor, as Renee said. And the rest of those 23 members are our non-voting panel of technical advisors. So you'll recall we have 8 goals in our CCAP. We also have then one expert to support each area of our climate plan. And I want you to note here that our urban green space technical advisor role is actually open. So if you have an interest in that, make sure you catch my email address at the end of the presentation and let's chat. So I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. So I would ask that if you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself so everybody can hear. So our ordinance that created the Environmental Commission also created an Environmental Health Committee, which is made up of our 2 commissioners with public health experience, including Renee, Commissioner Robertson, and 3 non-voting committee members from the general public with expertise in public health. So we have a pediatric pulmonologist who focuses on asthma. We also have a general practitioner, and then we have an engineer with expertise in water systems and waterborne disease prevention and detection. So that's a little bit about the commission and how it's formed. And now let's talk about some of the things that we have accomplished in our first year. We have really hit the ground running on several key issues, including badly needed and long needed zoning reforms on concrete batch plants. It was one of the first items that we were briefed on. And we actually were able to give input to the internal policies and work with both council and community members who were impacted by these concrete batch plants in their communities to put together a solid plan to begin to address these issues that we're seeing with communication about batch plants popping up and nobody really understanding or knowing how they got approved to operate in that location. So the new policy requires immediate notification to both the city council member and the commissioner when the city receives a batch plan application from the TCEQ. It also includes cross-departmental checks for permits so that the necessary state environmental permit and local land use permits are obtained. Sometimes we'll have an operator who got all of their TCEQ or Texas Commission on Environmental Quality state level permits, but never bothered to get the city level permits. And so the other thing that this includes is a GIS mapping of all of the active and former batch plant sites within the city of Dallas, which is a really cool effort that we have recently seen a draft of. So that'll be available soon. The second effort, which was adopted by the city council in earlier this spring, is a zoning code amendment for both temporary and permanent concrete batch and asphalt plants. The zoning code previously allowed for these facilities to be located in every zoning district across our city, including residential. So neighborhoods had the enormous burden of activating a community awareness campaign, getting the public meeting with the TCEQ, communicating with their elected officials that they don't want this. So this zoning code revision requires a specific use permit at the city level, and that is a land use permit. And that triggers a number of things, but the first is a vetting by city staff on the appropriateness and compatibility of that particular land use in that location. That's not something we've ever had before for these. And now community members also get 2 public hearings, one at the City Plan Commission level and one at the city council level, which was also a huge piece that was missing from this whole process, was community engagement and community feedback opportunities. We also asked staff to bring back an environmental equity checklist. That's an internal city tool that's going to prevent public works projects from bypassing environmental justice considerations from the very beginning. I've seen it so many times. You cannot shoehorn environmental justice considerations on the end of a project and make a community whole. And so we have to do everything that we can to ensure that all of our departments are working in accord with our climate action plans and with our environmental justice and racial equity goals. We also voted to request that staff add environmental indicators to next year's racial equity plan, which was without them. So the Equity Symposium will be in January of 2023, and we are proposing indicators, including a person's proximity to major sources of air pollution, large quantity generators of hazardous waste, wastewater discharge facilities, and other potentially impactful land uses. And our Environmental Justice Committee is actually preparing that recommendation and hopes to have that ready by the first of the year. In July of this year, the commission held a strategic planning session, and from it, we identified 5 unified priorities that the commission shares. The first is to advance environmental equity by encouraging the city to codify equity into its laws and processes. The second is to prioritize public and environmental health by advancing the city's greenhouse gas emissions reductions efforts. The third is to identify and leverage all resources, including data, funding, incentives, strategic partnerships that are needed to accomplish the CCAP's goals. The fourth is to create inclusive two-way communication and support community-led accountability related to environmental efforts. And the last is to transform the city of Dallas into a hub of environmental innovation. So these priorities will be supported by newly formed subcommittees. And in addition to our existing environmental health committee, we will now have community outreach committee and environmental justice, strategic partnerships, and a CCAP implementation committee. And then finally in August, the commission made a formal recommendation to phase out gas-powered landscape equipment, which was presented to the City Council in September. It would require that the city first convert its own fleet of equipment before requiring other large, medium, and small businesses and residents to transition over a 3-year period. The recommendation also included establishing an incentive or matching rebate fund, and we required that the city conduct at least 10 weeks of outreach of the plan before it's adopted by the City Council in both English and in Spanish. So all of these policy recommendations are great, but if the city doesn't have the funding to enact them, what's the point, right? So this year, we saw the city manager take a very concerted step towards funding, and that started with an increase in funding for the Office of Environmental Quality and Sustainability. We also saw 1.5 million for Brownfield's Environmental Justice Fund, which would be seed money for that program going forward. $500,000 to fund the CCAP implementation, which includes urban agriculture, weatherization, community solar, and matching grant funds. $500,000 to fund CCAP related outreach. And I'll tell you, this is a really important one because our previous outreach fund was right around $30,000 for the entire department. So we have to do a better job of providing public information around the CCAP, what the goals are, and include that information in multiple languages so that everybody can understand and everybody can give feedback in the way that's best for them. We also saw additional funding for the weatherization pilot and the community solar initiative. Funding is great, but bodies to do the things that need to get done, that's important too. And so this budget gave 2 new positions for air quality climate coordinators, 2 new brownfield program coordinators, a new environmental justice coordinator, and a new environmental due diligence coordinator. As I mentioned, the Commission's first priority is equity. And so our focus is and has been on how to equitably address these environmental issues. And this list is not a ranking of issues by any means, nor is it a comprehensive list of the environmental justice issues in our city. These are actually specific to incompatible land use. And so our batch plants from West Dallas to Joppy, we have these incompatible uses already permitted into nearby residential communities. And the new policies cannot retroactively take away those approved land uses. And so these are issues that we're going to have to continue to figure out as the city revises its comprehensive land use plan. And we've been working on a new batch plant in Mill Creek, which is in South Dallas, and we'll actually be installing some air quality monitoring on both sides of the facility to monitor those emissions and hopefully to inform future land use policies. So the city was awarded 2 grants recently, one from the EPA's Environmental Justice Fund and the other from the ARPA funds. And the data from those monitors will be made available on a front-facing dashboard. And so communities like Joppy and West Dallas and Floral Farms and other locations who have already asked for air quality monitors will be able to receive those. And so we've already held several community meetings, which is the first step in order to request those monitors be installed. Miss Jackson is on the call tonight, and so I want to acknowledge her and say hello. Of the environmental justice issues in our city is obviously the former Shingle Mountain site. In May of this year, City Council approved $2 million for the remediation of the former Blue Star recycling site. So the city acquired that property in 2021, and an environmental assessment found lead contaminated fill on that site. And so the city has submitted to the TCEQ's Brownfields program a plan to remediate, test, and then remediate that site. And we are going to receive an update on the city's progress on that very soon. And in addition, the Floral Farms community, not just with the Blue Star site, but has continued to see and fight incompatible and illegal land uses near their homes, which Commissioner Robertson has been working on, and Commissioner Blair with the City Plan Commission has been working on. And we appreciate Marcia keeping us informed and helping us to know about and be able to help address some of those issues. GAF Materials, you guys might have heard about GAF Materials over the past year. GAF is an asphalt shingle manufacturing plant that's operated on Singleton Boulevard in West Dallas since 1946. In 2020, about 2 years ago, a community organization in West Dallas began to monitor air quality in that neighborhood. So West Dallas once spearheaded the effort to oppose GAF's Title V federal operating permit, which is their air quality permit. And from that, other neighbors became involved. Singleton United formed, and together they have been working to toward two goals, which is close the GAF facility and significantly reduce the harmful emissions that are being put into the neighboring residential communities on both sides of GAF. Between now and the time that they close. There will be a community meeting on GAF November 30th at the Anita Martinez Center in West Dallas. Lane Plating Works was a very small electroplating facility off of Bonneview Road, and they left some pretty heavy contamination on the site. So back in 2009, the TCE began investigating all the plating facilities in residential neighborhoods after they had to do an emergency response to an electroplating facility that had stored acid and cyanide together, which is explosive. And so they then went back to the regional office. They went through all the registrations. They found 130 or so plating facilities to investigate. And then they really honed in on about 75 facilities with containment storage areas. And they found 10 to 15 of those to be problematic, including Lane Plating Works. And so Lane Plating Works was investigated. They were found to also be storing acid and cyanide together. There was an emergency response. They determined that they had large quantities of undisposed of hazardous waste on site. And when they went into TCEQ enforcement, I was actually working at the TCEQ. It was my role to help them get back into compliance with the law, which they were unable to do. And on the day that the case went to the Attorney General, Lane Plating Works filed bankruptcy, and it became one of our city's largest Superfund sites. And so it has sat there for several years. This was all back in 2016. And so there has been a community advisory group that has been working to take information from the EPA back to the community, allay the concerns of the community back to the EPA. And recently it was determined that there were some break-ins, and the hazard of exposure there to one of the pollutants, which is hexavalent chromium within the building, was so great to the trespassers that it was almost 4 times the acceptable range. And so the EPA initiated what is called a time critical removal action. And they began an expedited removal of that structure and excavation of some of the soil on the site. And so there will be a community meeting later this month as well for those neighbors to ask any questions that they have before that facility is in fact demolished. There's another Superfund site over in West Dallas called Texas Vermiculite. Texas Vermiculite was a vermiculite processing facility, but they got some of their vermiculite, which is not hazardous, from a mine in Libby, Montana, which is contaminated with asbestos, which is hazardous. They processed it on site for many, many years, and then the facility closed. And it was recently determined that the contamination far exceeded the site of the operation itself. And so the EPA came back in. So the EPA came back in and did some additional testing and found asbestos contamination within the area in the residential neighborhood adjacent, which is also the neighborhood where GAF Materials is located. So they're working now to finish up the assessments so that they can conduct that remediation for that community. As I said, this is not a comprehensive list. There are numerous other communities who are facing similar issues. These are just some of the ones that the commission has been directly working with. So I'm going to close with a quick preview of some upcoming meeting topics and events. So as I just mentioned, the Lane Plating Superfund site and the Blue Star remediation updates will be coming back to the Environmental Commission. We will also get a CCAP annual report and a fiscal year 23 implementation work plan. So each year of the CCAP is broken into implementable plans. And this year, I want to say that we are working on 63 of the 97 total actions. So that means over half of this plan is already in effect and being worked on. So that's great progress. We're also going to hear about the urban agriculture plan. Food security, food scarcity, having access to clean and fresh local food is really, really important to a lot of our community members. And this urban ag plan is going to be an important way for community members to find resources to start local urban agriculture efforts. And then we're also going to hear the net zero building policy recommendation. That'll come to the commission, not this next meeting, but very soon after. And our next meeting is actually tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m. And the DallasClimateAction.com website has our agenda and links to join if you're interested. You can also follow the Environmental Commission on social media. We're at Dallas Environmental if you're interested. So we have been appointed to work in partnership with the community that we represent, and that means receiving input from our residents is key to our success. It also means effectively sharing information about upcoming topics and policy decisions and environmental issues in the city is really important. And to support that goal, we have our outreach and engagement committee, but if you would like to get involved, we invite you to do that. And so that, like I said, there's both virtual and in-person participation for our meetings. Our meetings are recorded, so even if you can't participate, you can hop online, you can watch it at your convenience. Those are also posted on our website. You can email us, our email addresses are there. We would love to come out to your community group or to your neighborhood association. If you would like to request a meeting, you can reach out and do that. So that is my email address, and I'll leave it up for just a moment. And I'll also put it in the chat, but I want to open it up to any questions and sort of have a dialogue about the Environmental Commission and what you'd like to know more about.
Say, Kathryn, this is John. I wanted to ask, first of all, your background. You were with the TCEQ. What had brought you there, and what has been your background, and what have you been doing?
So I actually started in the environmental field, working for a municipality, doing environmental policy and some grant management. So I worked with DOE and the Department of Energy and EPA and the State Energy Conservation Office, and did some strategic planning. And then from there, I went to a very small renewable energy firm. And we did integrated wind and solar. And we did installed a couple of wind turbines at the Department of Labor facilities that were really like a hands-on learning experience for the students there. And then I decided to join the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. And I worked in the Environmental Assistance Division, which is separate from the enforcement side of the agency. And so I did comprehensive site assessments. So I was trained in air and water and waste regulations. We would go out on site, we would do a walkthrough, we would talk to the operator about all of the variety of permits that their operation might be subject to, help them get those permits, the reporting that's required, and answer any questions that they had without the fear of enforcement from the other side of the agency. Once somebody went into enforcement, we would also help them, as we did with the lane plating case, get back into compliance. And so I actually left there when I had my son, and I thought, well, gosh, it's probably best for me to stop going and traipsing on these super fun sites with a baby at home. So I decided to stay at home with my son, which was a great opportunity for me. But eventually, my passion for the environment led me to community organizing. And so in my community in East Dallas, I was able to help lead an effort to stop a concrete batch plant. And that led to the formation of a community action group for my neighborhood. And we were able to plug into some other communities and work with them and offer guidance and assistance with what we had learned about the city's processes and what resources we had created so that other groups didn't have to really start from scratch. So we created sort of a toolkit to respond to batch plants and what was needed and, what the TCQ's role was and wasn't and how you could, really help yourself. And that has led me to meet some very wonderful people, including Victoria Howard, who's the chair of our Eco Action Committee that I serve on with the Dallas Sierra Club, and also Renee and Miss Jackson. So very grateful for all of the opportunities that I've had to do what is really my passion, which is just be a friend to the environment.
Thank you.
Kathryn, this is Dan. How long were you at TCEQ, and would you be willing to give us an opinion about the efficacy of TCEQ as an environmental agency?
I would very gladly, yeah. So I was at the agency for about 4 years, and a lot of great, wonderful people who are very passionate about the environment work there. Great colleagues. But as far as an agency, I feel that now that I'm on the community engagement side of it, it is an uphill battle. And they don't make it easy for the community to engage. And when the community does engage, they don't listen. And it's very frustrating from a community perspective. And those are things that we are working to change. And so I think that the TCEQ, it's no secret, they're very friendly to industry. And it's very difficult to get the agency to make policies that are more protective, air quality regulations, et cetera. And so that is sort of an uphill battle. And I'll give you an example. The agency just recently announced that they are revising the concrete batch plant standard permit in 2023. So they're going to take some informal comments, and then they're going to draft their plan, and then they're going to open it up to formal comments. And I'm very leery about what, if any, of the community's concerns will actually be heard, and whether the permitting process itself will be amended to be more friendly toward community members who are impacted, and make a bigger effort to notify them so that they can become involved in the permitting process, what they will actually do to implement some of the community's concerns or address the community's concerns in the permitting process. Because right now, when we receive a response from the agency about our environmental justice concerns, the response is, first, they don't believe in environmental justice. because they believe in treating all people equally. They like everyone equally. And I'm like, but it's your policies that are creating a disproportionate burden to communities of color. And so if they don't change the policy, then it's not going to limit the impact of the problem. So it really is fundamentally something within the agency that has to change. And if that's leadership, or whether that's legislation that needs to happen. They're not going to do it on their own, is my opinion.
Well, what, in your opinion, is at the bottom of these shortcomings?
I think it's a couple of things. I think, first of all, Texas is very pro-industry. And, you know, industry has their lobby. And then there are, you know, the 400 vacancies at the agency right now. So they had about 200 vacancies before they did a COVID like back to work. And then when they called all their employees come back to work, they lost 200 more employees. The pay is very low, and you have a lot of turnover for people who go to the agency, get the training that I got, and then get hired by consulting firms. And so they leave. And so they're always training new employees. It's a very high turnover rate, even with their new employees, which is not something you typically see in a well-run agency. You've got some people who join and they typically stay for quite a while. They'll retire through the agency. And they're just not seeing that right now. So they were actually under sunset review, which is the legislature's process of doing improvements to an agency, essentially make some improvements, or we'll cut your funding, or we'll sunset you. And the TCEQ is up for their sunset review. And we heard a lot of those things during the comments about their efficiency and about their willingness to get to the bottom of why is it that the agency is struggling so much.
Well, another indication of their struggle is that I went to work for Texas Parks and Wildlife in 1983. And since that time, that agency has actually changed their name, I believe, several times. I can't even remember what all the different names that they have had. But the name changing thing is an indication of an agency that is trying to dodge their actual responsibilities. And I'll just comment that when you have an agency that's really controlled by commissioners, which is most state agencies, that they are appointed by the governor. So the only way to really change the outlook is to have a governor who would appoint people who actually are interested in the environment, rather than in the profits of the companies that they're supposedly supposed to be regulating. We had a similar situation at Texas Parks and Wildlife, maybe not quite as bad, but at the bottom of all this is the commissioners and the governor that appoints them. Okay, that's my soapbox. Are there any other questions for Kathryn this evening? No
I
questions?
did have, yeah, I do. You mentioned about batch plants, and I am just curious, how many batch plants, concrete batch plants, are there just within the city of Dallas city limits, or Dallas County for that matter?
So currently there are, I believe, 30 operating in the city. I'll have to double check. It was as high as 88, but I actually pulled all the historical batch plants from the TCEQ going all the way back to 1978 and sort of mapped them for the 19 county DFW region. And we're talking about hundreds, 800 batch plants for the whole, metropolitan planning area.
Did you say 100 or 800?
800.
Okay.
Yeah, for the whole metropolitan planning area. And that's historically, that's not active currently. But, what's interesting is that the city has their mapping tool, and they're going to launch that here pretty soon. And it's an interactive layer feature where you can see how far is the closest park, how far is the closest school, what's the base zoning, when does the specific use permit come up for renewal. And that gives community members an idea of when they could expect to be able to oppose it next. And that's, that as far as a land use resource and a policy resource, and it's tremendous to be able to look at that map and say, well, I see where there aren't concrete batch plants. I see which communities don't have concrete batch plants. And then you can very plainly see which communities do over and over have these same operators pop up in their communities.
Well, Kathryn, that's a pretty good argument that they aren't treating everybody equally, isn't it?
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Do we have more questions for Kathryn?
I have a question, if I could, Dan. First of all, I want to thank Kathryn not only for a beautifully presented presentation with fabulous graphics, which is one of Kathryn's gifts, but also I want to say with no hyperbole that Kathryn is one of the most dedicated, hardworking advocates I've ever met in my life. And I do not over exaggerate. This woman knows everything, runs everything, and she looks fabulous doing it. And I don't know how the hell she pulls it off. So I want to grow up to be just like her. And it is a privilege to have her on Conservation Eco Action. Shameless plug, we are always needing people to come and help us fight big business, big craziness, big industrial contamination in Conservation Eco Action. Everyone is welcome, whether you've been an advocate before, know what you're doing, have no idea what you're doing, you are welcome just the same. So please feel free to email me or Kathryn or anyone if you would like to participate. Beyond my preamble, my question for Kathryn is, Kathryn, what is the environmental issue facing Dallas right now that really sticks in your craw? It's almost like your kiddos. You can't pick a favorite because everyone is valid and everyone has their own issues. But there's always one that seems to require the most attention or that keeps you up at night worrying. Which one is that for you?
First of all, thank you so much for your comments. I'm really honored that I get to work with you. It's a lot of fun. So really, if you're interested, please join us. We have a tremendous time. I would say my biggest issue, my biggest concern right now is industrial adjacency, because you cannot negatively impact neighbors if you are not directly located next to them. It's really hard to impact a community with your pollution when you have an appropriate buffer distance between you and them. And so our city's historic land use policies are all very racist in nature, as are many of our major cities. There was redlining. There was the intentional placement of communities of color, Black and brown neighbors, into unfavorable locations that were designated as less than. We don't want to live in West Dallas next to those cement kilns. We don't want to live, next to the lead smelter. We don't want to live next to the asphalt shingle manufacturer. And then you've got communities like Joppy that's on the railroad tracks right there. And they have essentially built into that batch plants and, asphalt shingle manufacturers and all of those other facilities that are simply incompatible with the enjoyment of your property. And so I would say that across the city, our historically bad, really just bad land use policy making has led to some of the worst environmental issues in our city, and only thoughtful land use planning going forward is going to address it. And so, we can plan for the future and say, this is what we'll do next time. But we also have to look retroactively at what can we do to fix what's been done. And that is not something that is easy, because now these land users, property owners, they have property rights. And you cannot simply go and just shut them down. It's a legal battle. And that's the trouble. But making sure going forward that there are appropriate land uses and buffer distances, and that communities are protected, is going to lessen the number of environmental issues within our city, for sure.
Dan, this is Renee. You didn't ask me, but I'm just going to tell you what keeps me up is the lack or the buy-in, the indifference that people have, that some of the agencies and people who give them the permits have. I'd responded to Ms. Jackson's on the call. She was talking about, she called me for some illegal dumping. I went out to the site. I had pictures. She took pictures. I went out because it was difficult to really see from the picture. They went out and didn't see anything.
Can I
Yeah.
put one thing? Can I mention something to follow up with both what Kathryn said and what Renee just said? There was a series on television about a year ago, and it was specifically talking about Joppy and about Shingle Mountain. And one of the people they interviewed was a developer in that area. And one of the most astounding things he said, which made my jaw drop, he didn't say it exactly like this. However, the thrust was, well, if the people didn't want to be next to this stuff, why did they move there? I mean, just blows your mind that somebody would be that incapable of understanding.
That's what I'm talking about. And in a lot of situations, the homeowners that are there were there first.
Well, yeah, of course. This guy was just clueless.
I mean, even if it doesn't make it right if the homeowner wasn't there first. But I'm saying in most situations, the homeowners were there first, and they are the invaders.
Yes.
Well, and that's exactly why those places are located in the areas where the homeowners are, because the homeowners are black and brown, and they lack political power and they lack monetary power, which are the same thing.
And it's everywhere. About a year or so ago, we went to my grandmother's youngest sister's funeral. It was in Tyler. And so the reception was one place and the funeral was another. The reception was at a church in a modest neighborhood, and Tyler's not all that big, and you could obviously tell you were on what's considered the black side of town. And the church was nice and neat, but there was a nice cock fence, and on the other side of the cock fence was a bench plant. And, my family, nobody knew, nobody saw this, realized this but me, but I had to give it to him. It was nice and neat and clean. And I saw a truck come in and things were covered, and I didn't see any dust like you do up here. And this was like in the middle of the street. This was in the middle of the street. It was nice, modest homes. And this thing was on the street with them, but it was nice and neat and clean. But once again, why did you put it there?
If
You
I
know
could
very
mention-
well why they put it there, Renee.
Oh, I know why you put it there. I'm just saying, why did you put it there? Why could you not have put it off the highway? Tyler has plenty of highway. And like I said, if we have all these batch plants, we need cement. I get it. But why can't we spread the wealth? When I go home, there's plenty of land off Preston Road.
If I could make a quick comment that I think kind of includes what everyone has been saying all at once. We get a lot of calls at Conservation Eco Action with people wanting to fight proposed industrial buildings or businesses coming into their neighborhoods, but they're fighting them after they've gone through planning and zoning. And the piece of advice that I give everyone about how to be proactive and keep environmental contamination away from your neighborhoods, and it's not sexy and it's not exciting, but man, does it have teeth, is to check your city's planning and zoning agenda every month, your council meetings agendas every month, and nip it in the bud before it's passed. Some people don't realize that after a city and planning and zoning have voted to approve a project and it's gone through council, that the city legally cannot back off of that without huge issues and possible lawsuits against them. So I cannot tell you how many calls I get from people who call when the facility is about to be built. And there's really not much that we or they can do at that point. So on top of checking your city agenda, I would also say to check in with the TCEQ and sign up for their notice of public hearings. I have found batch plants being proposed literally in my backyard that I did not know about that came up on there. And I will tell you, cities and the TCEQ are sneaky, and I don't mean to denigrate them, but they want to avoid conflict. They do not sing from the rooftops when you have a potential industrial polluter coming into town. They try to get rid of that and vote it through as quickly as possible. So that would be my advice to anyone listening. Keep up with your local neighborhood and also know what parts of your city are incorporated or unincorporated, because that makes a huge difference in how you would fight any proposed industrial contaminator coming in.
And it's the zoning, like you said, most people are not, they don't know, how important the zoning is. That's what determines things. And I tell, like in my mom's district, I tell them, as you ride around going to the store, be observant. If you see what used to be a field, all of a sudden it's got a nice fence around it and it's being mowed, you need to find out what that is, because they're not real good about putting signs up saying this is what this is, So right now at the corner of Hampton and Ledbetter, there's a nice land. It's mowed, has a Cox fence around it, and a fence is ownership. If you know how expensive fences are, nobody puts a fence up around something they don't own. So this is, I'm trying to find out exactly what it is.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Kathryn before we let her go? Because
I just like
got
to thank
things to
Kathryn
do.
for a wonderful presentation.
Yes, thanks a lot,
Yes.
Kathryn. And now you can go take care of the kids, I guess, huh? Okay. Before we adjourn, though, John, could we put up the date of the Christmas party again and tell everybody that's going to be at El Phoenix, right? Over off of north of the Arboretum there where we usually have it. Can you put that up, John, where the party is?
Just a second. Let me see if I have it here.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah. Casa Linda Plaza. That's what's the road that goes down past the Arboretum?
Garland
Road.
What?
Garland Road.
Yeah, I guess it's Garland. Yeah. So Casa Linda Plaza is right off of Garland over there. So
By the
anyway,
way, I have the wrong date. I have Sunday, December 9th. It's Sunday, December 11th. 11.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, Sunday, December 11th.
Correct.
Okay. And Wendell pays for the first round of margaritas, and after that, you're on your own. So anyway, try to attend that.
It
Do we
is a
have-
lot of fun, so I strongly suggest going.
Yeah, especially now that we're not meeting in person at all. Attending these get-togethers becomes more important so that we can commune with each other. Okay, if there's no further, are there any further issues we need to talk about before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, John, if there's people who want to stay around and talk to
I'll
each
be
other, John will hang around and keep the meeting open so you can do that. So at this point, thank you everybody for attending. Thanks, Kathryn, for your excellent presentation. Thanks, John, for hosting. And good night, everybody. I'm out of here.
Okay.
night.
I
Thank
will
you,
just
everybody.
mention, if you want to talk about babies, I have a new grandbaby. It's little Lily Lingenfelder. Don't ask me why my son and daughter-in-law came up with the name Lily.
Well, I have a new niece too, John. She's a week old Tuesday,
Oh, nice.
and her name is Symphony. I don't know why.
I'll be darned. I had a person who was a trainer. His daughter, she was named Symphony.
Yeah, it's actually a popular name. Well, I will see you guys later. Thank you, everybody, for joining on the call.
See you, Renee. Take care.
Bye-bye.